Hi and welcome back, and today we'll be learning how to meditate. The first foundations that you're going to need in order to meditate is time and space. And depending on how your life is arranged, that's going to dictate how much time you have and how much space and how to set that up for yourself. So if you're like me and you're single and you live alone and you have your house set up for peace and tranquility, this could be quite easy for you. If you have a very busy life and you have a lot of demands and you don't have much physical private space, that could be challenging for you to carve out time and space. But nonetheless, that is what you will need. And so if you do have a lot of demands on your time, you're going to need to carve out 10 minutes, 15 minutes to be alone and to have your own space. For me personally, I find that it's hard for me to meditate when I'm in a mess. So I often will clean up before I meditate, or I try to clean everything and make everything super nice before I go to bed, so that when I wake up in the morning, my space is already quite clear and clean, and I'm ready to have a peaceful, quiet time. So when you're setting up your space, you can do things like put out a candle, maybe some incense. You can have a nice altar. You can create a special spot for you to meditate. That can be a really nice thing for you to do to kind of get you in that mode and to signify really that you're moving into a deeper connection with all that is. But you could also do none of that. So it's not a requirement. It could help you get in the mood, let's say. But if that's not available to you and you just need to meditate in a more chaotic environment, then so be it. When you close your eyes, you know your eyes are closed. As far as time goes, even 5 minutes of meditation is better than no minutes of meditation. So, maybe you need to start out small. I would recommend 15-20 minutes as a minimum. And, in my channel book, Alchemy of Consciousness, basically the voice of God spoke to me and recommended an hour of morning stillness and an hour of time where you devote to connecting to God or your own source energy. Now, that might not be realistic for you, and it's not something that I do every single day. So it's really up to you how long you devote to meditation. One thing I would recommend is that when you're starting especially, that you choose a time that's realistic for you, and then you commit to doing that every day for, let's say, 30 days. So you can start a new habit. So you can go ahead and leave a comment in the Facebook group letting us know. I'll start a thread. How many minutes a day do you feel that you can realistically commit to? And then when you go to meditate, this is something I learned from TM, is actually set a timer for that amount of time. So if it's going to be 20 minutes, you can set a timer for 20 minutes and then meditate. You will probably be shocked at how long that friggin' 20 minutes seems at first. It's going to seem like an eternity. If you have a busy mind, it's going to seem like it goes on and on and on and on forever. And that's part of the beauty of having the timer, because if you don't time it, then you you can kind of fool yourself into thinking that you're meditating for longer than you actually are. These days, I can meditate for a long time and just enjoy it. But back in the day, it was like pulling teeth. So it's really nice to set a timer. Oh, another thing about time and space is just make sure that you have a quiet space and that you're not going to be interrupted. Personally, my favorite time to meditate is very early in the morning, from 4 till 6, 7 a.m., early hours of the morning when everybody else is asleep. It's so quiet. And in Ayurveda, which is the ancient Indian medical knowledge, that time of day from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Maybe it's 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Yeah, it's 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is the time of day when Vata is most active, and Vata is air and ether, which basically means it's the time when the veil between the physical and the non-physical realms is thinnest, and so it is the easiest time to meditate. And I certainly have found that to be true. It's such a peaceful time. So if you happen to wake up really early in the morning, that's a really nice thing you can do, is take a little bit of time to meditate. And otherwise, first thing when you wake up is a nice time. But depending on how your life is configured, when are you going to be able to carve out true quiet time? And do your best with that, because if you need to get earplugs, then get earplugs, because it is quite challenging to meditate. It's quite challenging to meditate, first of all, but to meditate when there's a lot of noise is even more challenging. So give yourself some, an advantage by making sure that you have a quiet space. So once you have your time and your space, then we'll move into a meditative position. So you can sit quite simply in a chair, spine nice and straight, your palms just resting on your thighs or maybe in your lap like this. Just super simple, your feet on the ground. This is a perfectly fine way to sit for meditation. When I first learned meditation with Michael, I thought that I had to have my back super straight and that I wasn't allowed to use a backrest, and that the posture was super important. And there are schools of thought where that is true. And so there are many different styles of meditation. And one of the things I did appreciate about transcendental meditation wasn't that there wasn't an overly strong focus on the body and what you're doing with your body. There are other forms of meditation where that is emphasized. And so if that is what you're drawn to intuitively, that might be a better approach for you. So I'll share that option as well. There are other meditation teachings which do have more of an emphasis on the posture, and where you would learn to meditate sitting on the floor. So if you don't have a lot of flexibility in your hips, then what often happens if you're sitting on the floor is that your lower back will round and your knees will be up, and there's going to be a lot of tightness here in your hip flexors, which is just going to make your body scream to you the whole time you're meditating. And your thinking is just going to be, ouch, I'm uncomfortable. Ouch, I'm using my muscles to hold me up. And really, that's not the purpose of meditation. So if you are drawn to taking more of this approach, position-wise, for your meditation, then I recommend, unless you have a lot of flexibility in your hips and you're easily able to sit up with a nice arch here in your low back, then you're going to want to sit up onto something like a block, or you can sit up onto a cushion. So you see, already with the sitting up on the block, it's much easier for my hips to be above my knees. And so that's what you're looking for, is for your hips to be above your knees. Now that might not be enough for you, in which case you could also bring some pillows under your knees, and that's going to make it really relaxing for your hip flexors. So even just that little adjustment makes it much, much more easy for me to sit with a nice tall spine. And then to check that my ears are above my shoulders and my shoulders above my ears. So this is what we're looking for in terms of like a nice tall spine for meditation. And that also allows the Kundalini. So the Kundalini is a word for the energy that moves up the spine. So that allows more of a clear pathway for your energy to rise. So you can try this out and see how that feels. And then also you can try out just experimenting with having your palms down and how that feels, or having your palms up. Personally, my favorite is to rest my hands in my lap with my thumbs connected. And often I'll sit with a cushion on my lap and just have my thumbs connected like this. Super comfortable. So definitely if you have any kind of tightness in the hips, which most people do, as a yoga teacher I can say that, then you're going to want to elevate your hips and perhaps support the knees so that you can have this nice arch in the low back. For me, this is my sacred couch where I meditate. So my favorite position is to sit in kind of a combination of the first two, with my back nice and supported by the couch. And I take my beautiful blanket and often my pillow. And then sometimes if I feel like the couch isn't giving me enough support to really have a tall spine, I'll put a little cushion behind my low back. This is so comfortable. Also, sometimes I'll put a cushion under my knee just so that there's no pain. So you really want to make sure that you do have a tall spine and that you are relatively comfortable in whatever position you do take, so that you're not paying so much attention to your body. Yoga asana also really does help, because the more flexible and open you are, the more comfortable you will be seated. And that's actually what asana means. It means a comfortable seat. So we'll do a 10-minute meditation today. So I'm going to set the timer. Another thing to begin with, I won't be leading you in a strongly guided meditation where I'm talking the whole time. The reason for that is because a lot of people lean on having guided meditations because they can't quiet their mind, and that actually robs them of the beauty of what happens when you learn to quiet your mind. Quieting the mind, though, does take time, and it's a practice, and there's a learning curve, and there's also so much value that comes from the whole process of the thoughts coming up and you seeing them and then releasing them and letting them go. And so today what we're going to practice are two things. One is just breathing and focusing on the breath. What that does is it gives the mind a focus point, because the mind is inherently a busybody and likes to be doing something. And so we give the mind something to do. And this will be focusing on the breath coming in and out. And then the second thing is, when the thoughts arise, we're going to adopt an attitude of ease and just letting them go. So it's not a big deal. It doesn't, it's not like, oh my God, here I am thinking, and making yourself wrong for it, because that's actually the nature of the mind, is to think. And the mind is also processing a whole heck of a lot of stimulation from your life. And so it's totally natural that thoughts are going to come up as you're meditating. And as you see them come up and you notice that you've gone on a whole train of thought, then once you become aware of it, you just let it go with ease and return to the focus on the breath. All right, and so we'll begin a timer for 10 minutes. So begin now to focus on the breath, entering in and out of the nostrils. Don't need to breathe in any particular way. Just watch the breath naturally and effortlessly coming in and out. And when thoughts arise, as they will, the moment that you notice, just let them go with an attitude of ease. No big deal. And return the focus to the breath coming in the nostril and moving out of the nostril. And even taking the focus on the breath lightly with an attitude of ease. Just peacefully watching the breath go in and out. Allow the body to shift and relax and settle naturally as it will. And continue to bring your focus back to the breath easily and effortlessly. As the contents of your mind make themselves known, bubbling up to the surface, let them go. Gently and return your focus back to the breath. Begin to deepen your breath. Gently open your eyes and just take in the room. Appreciate yourself for your practice and feel free to leave me a comment. Let me know how that was for you. And you can also make a few notes in your journal if you feel like it. It can also be nice to have a little nap after you meditate. So that's something that is recommended in transcendental meditation, is just to take a 5-minute nap. But be careful with that. That can turn into a longer nap in my experience. So between now and our next meditation together, I invite you to try continuing on with this same simple practice of breathing and letting go of the thoughts as they arise for a chosen amount of time, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20, maybe 30 or minutes or an hour. whatever you decide, just continue trying out that practice every day. And in our next practice, we'll build on that foundation and expand into something new and more. I look forward to seeing you then. Take care.